Hello, Internet. Welcome back. Today we're looking into something that I honestly didn't expect to become this interesting, the LARPing tombstone. Now, if you've never heard of this channel before, don't worry. At first, I thought it was just another fan account. You know the kind, someone who really likes another creator and decides to make similar content. It happens all the time on YouTube. But after spending some time looking through the channel, watching the videos, reading comments, and checking upload dates, I started noticing things that didn't quite add up. So today we're going to ask one simple question. What exactly is the LARPing tombstone? Is it just a talented fan making music inspired by the living tombstone? Is it an elaborate roleplay account? Or could there actually be a connection between the two channels? Before we start, I want to make one thing clear. This is just a theory based on the information that's publicly available. I'm not saying any of this is true. I'm just putting the clues together to see where they lead. So, let's begin with the most obvious clue, the name. The LARPing tombstone. If you know the living tombstone, you'll notice the similarity immediately. They only changed one word. Instead of living, it's LARPing. Now, LARP stands for live action role play. But online it can also mean pretending to be someone or acting as another character. That already tells us something important. The channel isn't trying to hide that it's based on the living tombstone. In fact, it's doing the exact opposite. It's openly telling everyone that it's a LARP. Then we move on to the logo. Again, it looks extremely similar to the living tombstone's logo. It's not an exact copy, but it's close. Enough that almost anyone familiar with the original would instantly recognize the inspiration. Normally, that wouldn't be enough to make a theory. Lots of fan channels copy logos or styles. But that's where things start getting interesting. When I clicked on the first upload, I expected something average. Maybe a beginner trying to recreate the living tombstone style. Instead, I found a video that looked surprisingly polished. The editing was clean. The audio sounded good. The visuals fit the music. Everything felt like it had a lot of effort put into it. For a first upload, that's unusual. Most creators improve over time. You can usually watch their first few videos and see them learning as they go. Here, it didn't feel like that. It felt like whoever made this already had experience. That immediately made me wonder, who is actually behind this channel? And that's where the mystery really begins. So, after looking at the name, the logo, and the surprisingly polished first upload, we have one big question left. What else can we learn from the channel itself? Because sometimes the biggest clues aren't hidden in one single video. Sometimes they are hidden in the way a channel is built. When looking through the LARPing Tombstones channel, the first thing that stands out is the overall presentation. The channel doesn't feel like a random account that was made in a few minutes. The branding, the videos, and the way everything is put together feels planned. The creator clearly had an idea of what they wanted the channel to be. And that's interesting, because most new channels are usually still trying to find their style. They experiment with different types of videos, different thumbnails, and different ways of presenting their content. But the LARPing tombstone seems to already have a direction. Now, that doesn't prove anything by itself. A creator could simply have experience from making content somewhere else. Or they could just be someone who spent a lot of time learning before uploading. But it does raise another question. Who is the person behind the channel? Next, we need to look at the actual videos. When watching the uploads, one thing becomes clear. The creator understands how to make content that feels complete. The music, visuals, and editing all work together. The videos don't just feel like someone copying the living tombstone. They feel like someone trying to create their own version of that style. And that's where things get complicated. Because being inspired by another creator is extremely common. Many YouTubers start by taking inspiration from the people they enjoy watching. But the LARPing tombstone isn't just inspired by the music. The name, the logo, and the overall presentation all point in a similar direction. Again, this doesn't prove there is a hidden connection, but it does make the channel more interesting to investigate. And while looking through the videos, I started noticing something else. The creator seems to understand the style they are trying to recreate. The timing of the edits, the way the visuals match the music, and the effort put into each upload all suggest that this person has experience. So now we have a few possible explanations. Maybe the LARPing tombstone is simply a very dedicated fan who wanted to create something inspired by the living tombstone. Maybe it's a role-play project where the creator is acting as a character. Or maybe there is another reason behind the channel that we haven't discovered yet. But before we decide on any answers, we need to look at the biggest clues. Because when you put every piece of evidence together, that's when the real mystery starts. And that's exactly what we'll investigate next. So far, we've looked at the channel's name, its logo, the first upload, and the overall style of the content. Individually, none of these clues prove anything. A similar name could simply be inspiration. A similar logo could just be a tribute. And a polished first upload could simply mean the creator already had experience before starting this channel. But theories aren't built on just one clue. They're built by taking lots of small pieces of evidence and seeing if they fit together. So let's do exactly that. The first clue is the branding. Everything about the channel points back to the living tombstone. The name is clearly inspired by it. The logo follows a similar design, and the presentation immediately reminds people of the original. That's almost certainly intentional. The second clue is the consistency. Every upload follows a similar style. The editing, the visuals, and the overall presentation all feel connected. It doesn't look like the creator is randomly experimenting. Instead, it feels like they already had a clear vision for what this channel was supposed to be. Then there's the quality. Usually, creators improve over months or even years. But the LARPing tombstone started with videos that already looked polished. That doesn't mean the creator is secretly someone famous, but it does suggest they weren't completely new to making content. Now, none of this proves that there's any connection between the LARPing tombstone and the living tombstone. In fact, the most likely explanation is still that this is a fan project created by someone who really enjoys their work. But the creator also chose the word LARPing. That's an unusual choice. It's almost like they're inviting people to understand that this isn't pretending to be the living tombstone. Instead, it's openly presenting itself as a roleplay or alternate version inspired by them. And that changes how we should look at the channel. Instead of asking, is this trying to copy the living tombstone? Maybe the better question is, what is the creator trying to achieve? Is this simply a tribute, a creative experiment, or the start of a bigger story? At this point, we have more questions than answers. And before we can reach a conclusion, we need to consider every possible explanation. So, in the final part of this theory, we'll look at the different theories, decide which one fits the evidence best, and see where all of these clues really lead. After looking at every clue we've found, it's finally time to answer the question we started with. What exactly is the LARPing tombstone? The first theory is probably the simplest. The LARPing tombstone is just a fan project. This would explain almost everything we've seen. The similar name, the familiar logo, and the music style could all be the result of someone who genuinely enjoys the living tombstone's work and wanted to create something inspired by it. And honestly, there's nothing unusual about that. Every day, creators are inspired by other creators. Some people make fan art, others make covers, and some create entirely new projects based on the things they love. But there's another theory. What if the channel is meant to be a roleplay? The word LARPing is right there in the name. It doesn't try to hide the inspiration. In fact, it almost points directly at it. If that's the case, then maybe the creator isn't trying to convince people they're the living tombstone at all. Maybe they're playing the role of an alternate version, creating a fun tribute while making it clear that it's inspired by the original. And then there's one final possibility. The creator simply had previous experience before starting this channel. That would explain why the first upload already felt polished, why the editing looked confident, and why the channel seemed to have a clear direction from the very beginning. Of course, without hearing directly from the creator, we can't know which explanation is correct. And that's important. A good theory doesn't claim to know the answer. It looks at the evidence, considers different possibilities, and follows the explanation that best fits the facts. Based on everything we've looked at, the fan project and roleplay explanations seem to fit the evidence best. They explain the name, the branding, and the style without needing to assume anything we can't verify. But what do you think? Did I miss a clue? Is there another explanation that fits the evidence better? Let me know your theory in the comments below. And remember, this wasn't meant to prove anything. It was simply an investigation into a channel that caught my attention. Hey, that's just a theory. A LARP theory.